the other fishermen have been pulling up his pots. Customs cutters that were coming in and chasing one of their boats into Prussia Cove. And the fortifications around Prussia Cove. Hello, it's John here from Cornwall Coastal Walks, and I'm here at a place called Perranuthnoe. It's a lovely day in late April. You can probably see there's quite a few people in the sea behind me. It's not yet 10 o'clock. I had a bit of a cram to get in the car park, so it's a busy little place, Perranuthnoe. If you want to come here, get here early. Now, I'm not here for the surf. I'm here to do a 4-mile circular walk. We're starting at Perranuthnoe. I parked in the car park just half a mile that way, and we're walking along the coast past Cudden Point, which is sticking out a bit, you'll see in a bit, and round to Prussia Cove. And then we come back from Prussia Cove over some farmland back to Perranuthnoe. Now, this walk is an interesting one because Prussia Cove is the home of, well, the spiritual home of Cornish smuggling. There's a lot of tall tales told about smuggling in Cornwall, but it did exist. And Prussia Cove was one place where we've got documentation and a very interesting, both written and spoken history of a character, in fact, a set of characters, a family called the Carters, lived at Prussia Cove in the 18th and into the 19th centuries. Two brothers, John and Harry Carter. John was the more flamboyant of the two characters, but they both had boats, and they ran the local smuggling trade for a long time. It was a family business. Some interesting stories which I'll recount as we go along. Some early crops kept growing in here. Not quite sure what they are. They look like cabbages. They're certainly brassicas of some sort. And the gardeners all instantly recognise some agricultural fleece here, which is very similar to the stuff we use in our gardens, just to keep the frost off. Not that we'll have much frost. This little strip around Penzance, it's quite well known for its very fertile soil. Cornish soil is not fertile, but traditionally seaweed has been brought in from the beaches by the local farmers and anyone that wants to grow stuff actually, and used to enrich the soil. That combined with the sort of south-facing aspect of this sort of strip around Penzance, and the proximity to the sea, which keeps the ground almost frost-free, means this area is very famous for early brassicas, a lot of overwintering things like your early cauliflowers and things like that, all come from this area. It's also quite well known for its flower growing too, or traditionally used to be. Just following the coast path signs. It's a little bit confusing, just coming through the village here, but look out for the signs, and gradually what's a series of access roads becomes track, and then returns to coast path again as we leave the village. So if you look at the soil here, see it's sand. I don't know enough about the history of this village to say whether this was an agricultural field or not, but this is absolutely typical of the fields that were fertilised with seaweed around the Penzance area, and used to grow very wonderful crops actually. It's, the combination of seaweed and sand is a good one, that and the south-facing aspect. we go. So off the track and back onto the coast path. Some very chirpy bird life. It's that time of year. Have a listen. Impressive place just overlooking the beach here called Acton Castle. It's not a castle, obviously, it's more recent construction than most medieval castles, but I don't know too much about the place, but certainly whoever built it had an eye for the history of the area. It's said that the Carter brothers built fortifications around here. There's Cudden Head out there, good place to fortify, to help in their ongoing battles with the customs men. Amazing. So more to the castle-like structure than you might think. It's more recent looking at it than the 18th century, but yes, echoes of the past. Cudden Point. There it is out there. That's where we're heading. You can probably see just heading away from us now is a fishing boat, undoubtedly picking up lobster pots, or dropping them of course. You see that a lot all around these coasts. And you see it 7 days a week. Fishermen never have days off. Well, their days off are when the weather turns bad, of course. So actually they get plenty of time in the pub. But it's a hard life. Can be quite rewarding now. Fishing can be lucrative. I mean, lobsters in particular. I'll tell a story. I was collecting seaweed from a beach called Mayernporth, further up the coast, quite close to me, where I live at Truro. And a guy came paddling in on a fairly rickety kayak, and he had all these strange constructions on the deck of the boat. A couple of them were recognisable as lobster pots. Others were sort of lobster pot shaped, but they're sort of a bit homemade, bits of plastic and so on. Anyway, a young chap, he came paddling in, and I got chatting with him, and he said, yeah, I'm collecting lobsters. He said, I started off a few years ago with some homemade lobster pots. He proudly pointed at the ones. He said, I've made from designs on YouTube. And I went out and I dropped them in what I thought were likely places. And some of them caught lobsters. He said, I took them back and knocked on the doors of a couple of restaurants, and they said, fresh lobsters, yeah, how much do you want? So he said that was a couple of years ago now, and I've got a little business going, because he explained that he hadn't had a lot of luck with employment, but he found he could get these lobsters. But he said he's had some problems recently because the other fishermen have been pulling up his pots. And he said, the thing is, these ones I'm buying now, they cost a damn fortune. He said, they're not supposed to do that, are they? I said, well, I'm not sure you're supposed to be doing it. He said, well, it isn't really licenses. He said, people seem to have agreements, but the problem is there's patches and there's turf wars, and they've all got big boats, and I've only got a kayak. And he said, but I'm doing my bit, I'm doing my best. I'm trying to earn a living. I said, how much do you get for a lobster? He said, trade secret. But anyway, he was still making it, still doing a trade, presumably, because it was quite late in the day. It was getting towards night time when we had this conversation. Presumably he's going out at night, so he wouldn't be spotted. Good on him. And here we are, Cudden Point. It's quite impressive. Let's have a walk out there. So here we are. The path in theory goes a little further onto the tip of the point there, but it looks a bit hairy for me. I'll just do a 360 so you can see where we are. That's where we started from, the beach Perranuthnoe. Swing around, nice view of St Michael's Mount there, and Penzance and Newlyn beyond it. There's the point. Fishermen heading back, or heading out, don't know which. And go around, and Prussia Cove is just around the corner there. It's time to tell the story of the Carters of Prussia Cove. And the first thing to point out is it wasn't originally called Prussia Cove. That little bay around the corner was called Porthlea Cove, but it got renamed. Now, the Carters were a local family, and they lived just above Porthlea Cove, and quite a large family. But the two characters that we're interested in is John and Harry Carter, two brothers. John was the more flamboyant of the two, and when he was a boy, he used to call himself the King of Prussia. As a childhood game he used to play, and he was modelling himself after Frederick the Great of Prussia. And the nickname King of Prussia stayed until he was an adult, and when he became a famous adventurer, honest adventurer, you'd call them smugglers, gentleman adventurer, he became known as the King of Prussia's Cove, because he was the King of Prussia and that's where he lived. So the name Prussia Cove has stuck ever since. But the times we're talking about, and the smuggling empire was sort of 1770 to sort of 1800, something like that. It was a very volatile era. You had revolution in America, and then one in France. So the business of ordinary sea trade was very much disrupted. I mean, there were naval blockades, there were ongoing fights between navies of all countries, and the Royal Navy was in there as well. And one of the ways that the various wars were funded, of course, was by charging what was considered, by the Cornish in particular, exorbitant taxes, customs duties on things that were imported, because you could easily intercept stuff being unloaded at the harbour side and say, you know, I want my cut on that. And it was a way that the wars were funded, but the Cornish hated it. And one of the things that fired up the carters in particular was their sense of the injustice of the taxes, and they were Methodists. They were Bible people, because this is the land of John Wesley, and we were in the era of Methodism back then. It was at its height, and they resolved to do something about it. So they acquired boats and recruited men, and the Carter brothers ran an honest adventurer's business in and out of Prussia Cove, bringing in all the things that the Cornish otherwise couldn't afford: tobacco, wine, silks, and all that sort of stuff. A lot of it coming via Brittany in France, because of course we're not too far away, and you're going back to the time when Cornish as a language was still spoken. Well, Cornish and Breton were almost the same. So there's always a close relationship, particularly amongst coastal communities, between the Cornish and the Bretons. So they were supplying a lot of the stuff that came in here. But there are many stories told about the Carter brothers. One is their ongoing battles with the customs, and they had on the cliff just above Prussia Cove, I'm not exactly sure where, but they had a gun emplacement. And on one occasion they were involved in a battle with cannons, with customs cutters that were coming in and chasing one of their boats into Prussia Cove. And it was like this little warfare going on here, you know. But as a rule, there was quite an easy relationship, I believe, between the local customs officers, who were all armed to the teeth, and the carters, who were also all armed to the teeth, because the officers weren't paid very much, and as long as they got a bit of a cut now and again, I think they used to let the carters get on with their business. So apart from the odd incident, Harry Carter was badly wounded as well in one of these seaborne battles. It was a fascinating story, but all through the story of the Carters comes this sense of religious honesty and integrity that was driving them. Harry Carter forbade swearing on any of his vessels, which must have made fairly short conversations, I should think, given the type of people that used to man these things. Swearing on the boats. And there's another wonderful story told of when a cargo had been intercepted, and it was taken to the customs office in Penzance and held under guard. And John Carter broke in at night and retrieved it. And it said that the customs all knew it was John Carter because he'd only taken his own stuff, his own contraband. He'd left other people's there because he was an honest man. So there we go. It's the story of the Carters of Prussia Cove. Now we're just standing out it's a bit, I'd hardly call this bit a headland, but it sticks out a bit. And you can see ahead of us the last bit of Cudden Point where we were. Now take a look at the bit of coast. It's full of lots of little inlets and things like that. I'm just going to swing around so that we're now going to be pointing east. As you can see, coastline continues on and on and on and on. Now, you look carefully at this coast and you tell me where the smuggler hideout is. Go back point west again. You see it? Right, I'll tell you where it is. Right here. Just at the left hand side of the shot. Prussia Cove. You'd never know it till you're on it. Genius. Also speaks to the skill and the bravery of these honest adventurers. I mean, getting a boat in here. Look at it. And this is a nice spring day. I mean, they wouldn't be choosing days like this to land their stuff. It would be done at night time and preferably in the middle of a storm. Just entering the cove. Little row of fishermen's sheds here. I love the thatch one. Little slipway. Very useful. Also, very concealed. And again, you'll only see it when you come round and you come right in the cove. I mean, as well as honest adventuring, there were honest activities happening here as well. I believe it was used for fishing in the 20th century. Obviously small boats. Part of the problem when you're telling the history of a place like this is so much anecdote and legend and stories. Inevitably they get embellished. But in the case of the Carters, Harry Carter actually wrote an autobiography, mainly featuring himself and his heroic exploits. He does go into quite a bit of detail, I believe, about everything they did, including the fortifications around Prussia Cove, and they made access. I don't know if the ramp I'm standing on at the moment, because it just goes down to the cliff there, down to the bottom there. It is part of it, but I've seen, the tide's in at the moment, but when I've been here and the tide's out, there's like ruts cut across the rocks, so you could get a horse and cart up and down. So there's quite a lot of, evidence to back up Harry's claims. Yeah, interesting place. Head back up to the path because we've diverted a little bit there. the Carter's family home there. Can certainly feel like king of all your survey, and a very handy spot to keep an eye on what's coming in and out. There we go. Once the 19th century came along, the era of honest smuggling was going into decline. I mean, the wars were over, and trade was getting back to normal. Customs, that customs built some extra houses around here and stationed customs officers in them to keep an eye on the carters. Here we leave Prussia Cove and return to Perranuthnoe on an inland route. This is a very quiet lane. It only goes to Prussia Cove, so there's next to no traffic on it. Okay, so I've been walking up the road for about 4 or 5 minutes, and just before this bend you're looking for this public footpath sign. From here on it's more or less across farmland, and we got quite a good view here from behind of the strange castle that we saw from the coast path. Just coming around the back of Acton Castle. Funny place, isn't it? It's one of those buildings I'm really glad I don't own. Anyway, someone thought it was a good idea. This is your landmark, that bungalow. We hang a left here. Walker's favourite, herd of cows. Oh, I see there's an electric fence between me and them. Well, I'm happy there. But a couple of years ago my wife and I were walking through a field very much like this one. Herd of young heifers running up and down, and they took a bit of an interest in us, which is unfortunate because people get crushed and killed by cows. It's not that the cows are aggressive, they're curious. If one runs, they all run, and they're very, very clumsy. Anyway, we had a bit of a close encounter, which was saved, I guess, interrupted anyway, by the farmer that turned up and waved his arms around and so on. I got chatting with him, and he said, he said, the one thing you must never do when you've got a load of frisky cows running towards you is run away. Because if you run, they run, and they can go faster than you. He says, so if you stand your ground, they'll lose interest. That's a tip worth knowing. I mean, he would be in a position to know. Yeah. So, was it with bears? If it's a small bear, you look big. If it's a big bear, you look dead. Something like that. I don't know if that applies to cows or not. we go, we're just doing a bit of a wiggle here through the farm. See the village there in all its glory, with the ever-present St Michael's Mount in the background there. I must admit, if you're going to build a castle, stately home, cross between the two, around here, there's only one place to put it really, isn't there? Well done, your lordship. Stop for a little view of the sea. Very scenic. And there's the village ahead. And here we are, back in the village. There we go. And there's the pub. There's also a cafe down at the beach side as well. But we just walk down here now back to car park. Perranuthnoe has a perennial parking problem. Bear in mind it's only April. Very popular little place.